Admit all. Admit all. Hello, can you hear? Can everybody hear? Awesome, awesome. We have a different setup today. We have a microphone that we're going to use, which is a little bit different because we have actually Pauline, our guest speaker this time, is in the studio with us. So this is pretty exciting, pretty exciting. Welcome to Zenful Conversations. Thank you so much for coming by today. For information on future guest speakers and all our other Zoom offerings, please visit zenfulconversations.com and take a look around, My name is Zen Brown. I'm your host, and we're here today with our guest speaker, my very good friend, Pauline Dimitry.
Hi, everyone.
Pauline, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Can everybody hear Pauline? Okay, super, super. Wonderful. Let me just move this hair over. A little bit about Pauline. Pauline is an 85-year young yoga instructor, 5-time cancer survivor.
5 times, yeah.
5-time cancer survivor, and an amazing, wonderful friend of mine, but has seen a lot of life, and we're hoping she can give us actually the secret to happiness today. Yeah, is that what we're after today? You've lived a lot of life, and a lot of times we actually speak about in our groups that we have conversations. We actually talk about having a mental conversation with our 85 or 90-year-old self, as opposed to the critical 25-year-old self. And so I do think that you can give a lot of insight on what brings joy to life, and what you can share about that would be, I'm sure, helpful for some people. So I was going to say, let's cut to the chase, and just, what's the secret?
What's the secret? Good question. Yeah, anybody know?
I'm only kidding. I just thought we would talk a little bit. What do you remember about maybe the place you grew up? But just what do you remember about growing up, about the place you grew up?
Well, my family is Greek, and where I grew up, was fairly close to the Greek church, and so it was almost like the Greek country club, because everything we did revolved around the church.
That's cool. Do you visit there? Have you visited there as an adult?
No, because that whole neighborhood was gentrified. So everything, even our house, it was terrible. I don't know if you've ever had this experience. I was going to show someone where I was born, or where I grew up, and I was so excited, and I got there, and it was an empty lot. It was like that life didn't even exist. It was very strange.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we've been, Steve and I have been talking about, well, Hurricane Ian just recently came through here. We both grew up on the southeast coast, and we both experienced Hurricane Andrew. And we were talking about how when we went down to where we knew of the area that Andrew hit, and how there was nothing there. There was just nothing. There was just slabs. And what a mind thing that is. It's like, what do you mean it's not here?
Yeah. I mean, the poor people here driving over here, and this whole thing about trees and the way they communicate, and and to see the jagged edges where the branches have been taken off, and I mean, it's heartbreaking, and it's almost like you can hear them crying. It's such a terror. It's just very it's surreal, to be honest.
Yeah, the landscape has changed also in your drive over here.
Yes, it's so different. I mean, there are places that used to be and are not, I mean, where I live, we didn't have a whole lot of damage. But driving around, you can see the destruction and, you know, these poor people in Fort Myers, my goodness.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just awful.
Yeah.
But the thing with the trees really struck me. If anyone goes to Cooper Creek, they had rows of pine trees and the branches are just like lockjaw, and it's almost, it just feels like the trees are crying. It's very.
I have a lot of trees on my property.
You do, but your property looks.
Oh, well, we've been working on it and we had help. We had to hire help. But prior to the storm, I did have a conversation with my trees. I asked them to protect our property and they did. And I was so touched by it. I've been going around personally hugging and thanking each tree because even their branches have been snapped off. But I want to hear a little bit more about your life. I was thinking about inventions. There's a lot of inventions over your lifetime too. And what invention from your lifetime are you most amazed by?
Invention. Well, I do believe that we create our own lives, pretty much. And I think the greatest invention, if we want to call it that, would be coming to Sarasota, because it's such a spiritual place, and finding a community of like-minded people, which is a huge, I'm sure all of you know what I mean by that. I mean, you want to be around people who can lift you up rather than bring you down. And that's what I found here. And I'm very, very, you know, it's one of the few places that we're on a crystal grid. And the only other places in the country like that or like us are Asheville and Sedona. We're just in a very spiritual place in the universe.
Wow, that's so cool. I had no idea. I was just drawn over here, but I love it more than any place I've ever been.
Yeah, and I just heard that this is really interesting because Anna Maria Island, which I thought was going to be flooded, it didn't get anything. It's perfectly intact. And someone told me that there were burial grounds here. I don't know if any of you know about that. So,
you know anything about that? Can you share about that, Kim?
Yes, I mean, just what I've heard.
Hold on, I can't hear
that-
you.
Can you hear me?
Just give me a moment. That's not good.
Can you hear me?
Because it's the external microphone, we didn't have too much leeway time to test things out today. Let me see if I can, it's gotta go out in Zoom. Let me just try that. Okay, good. Oh, what? Okay, can you try talk now?
Can you hear me?
No. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
You post in the chat. Guess we're gonna have to use the chat box.
Okay.
oh, that's too bad.
It is too bad. The Zoom participants can hear Kim. Let me just real quickly see if I can see if Steve can come over and help real quick. Can you come assist with the audio for a moment? Question mark. Let's see what he has to say. Hold that thought. Let's come back to that. Let's not forget that about the the crystal grid and the,
Oh,
all of that. Don't let me forget, Kim. What about your first kiss?
oh my gosh. I remember that around the corner from us was a family. It was an Irish Catholic family of 10 kids, the Stewart family. And I'd go over there to play sometimes. And that's what the first time we played Spin the Battle was at the Billy Stewart, I think his name was. Not romantic at all.
Oh, yeah, but I totally forgot about Spin the
Spin the Battle, remember that? I think, how old, I mean, how old are you when you play Spin the
A
Battle?
a dangerous game for somebody for that age. I think you're too young to be playing it. Or don't you think you were too young to be playing that game when you were playing that game?
Anybody?
Well, you watch out because your daughter's on.
Who here has played Spin the Battle?
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I guess Steve said he'll come over in a moment and I want him to. Oh, I got
Oh, you got to see the handsome Steve. Lucky day.
Yeah, so. This is our IT guy. Whatever, Steve. These are the ladies.
Oh, okay. Hello.
The thing is, I cannot, the audio, see, like, Kim, can you be a test for a moment?
Can you
Kim
hear me?
wants to say something, but
Can you hear me?
she's not, it's not coming out. Like it was when you and I tested the other day. They can hear and the Zoom participants can hear.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, do you know anything really quickly that could,
Great.
it's as loud as it can get,
Mhm.
and the system preferences are out the Zoom as it was going, and you put this that microphone.
Mhm.
So it would really be great for those that can't. We have to do this.
So the output is the issue, right?
No, really, the output is going through Zoom and they're able to hear us,
Mhm.
but I'm not able to receive what they're saying.
Would that be your speaker share?
Well, no, because then they would buy it on that, then you guys can't hear, right? Now you can't hear me,
Mhm.
you can still hear me. Kim, can you talk?
Yeah, Steve's pretty cute.
What's going on? That's out.
How about now?
I'm sorry, this is a new setup with this microphone.
Can you hear me now?
And having the guest speaker in the studio here. And yesterday it worked with, because Steve logged on to Zoom, did a bunch of testing. Whoops.
I'll do it.
Okay, well, I thought you would know, like off the top of your head.
We're doing that.
Okay, well,
Can you sit here in your home?
those are good.
Mhm. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, we go back to that.
Do you have a workaround?
No, can't hear him. No. Thanks for moving. Nobody would have saved me.
Mhm. You don't have anything, you do?
Is it just me or can you hear, Kim says, is it just me or can you hear someone else? No, Brooke, you're talking too, right?
Mhm.
No, I can't hear anybody. Thank you for asking that. Maybe speak the volume.
You always your second master. You do.
No. That's a settings, audio settings, speaker. Settings, audio. Yeah, the speaker, through Zoom, but there's only 3 different ones, the external headphones. Can you still hear us now?
Mhm.
Okay, so you still hear now. Can you try to talk now again?
Can you hear me now?
Mhm.
Is there Vicky?
Yeah, it is Vicky.
Oh my God.
It is Vicky. Okay, we're just gonna have to move forward. We're just gonna have to move forward. We're just gonna have to move forward the way it is.
Okay.
We just have to move forward without their audio. That's what we can do.
Well,
Okay?
can you use a phone to dial in and get one of you that way?
No, I don't wanna be testing all these things. These people's times.
Okay.
All right. Darn. All right, we'll just have to use the chat. Sorry about that. We'll just have to use the chat today. Even myself, no, it's not working for, I don't know what it is. It's gotta be me, operator error. I'm not used to this and that's,
Well, we'll just work around
we'll
it.
just work around it. We'll just work around it.
Hi, Dina.
I love the interaction though. It's really my favorite part of these conversations and I really apologize for that. So, Kim, though, can you type a little bit about that? What Pauline was talking about as far as the being on a crystal grid and the burial grounds? I didn't know anything about that. Okay. Do you remember, Brooke says, do you remember Lilius Poland?
Oh, of course.
The longtime yoga instructor with Daily Show on PBS.
Yeah, with her long braid.
Yes.
Yeah. She was great. Well, and she's still around, you know.
Is she?
Yeah. Very interesting. She looks great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Vicky, we were talking about playing spin the bottle.
Oh, Vicky was in Greece. They didn't play spin.
Look at her. She's so innocent. Is innocent until proven guilty, as far as I know. What was your first job?
Oh, well, everybody in my house worked. My grandmother, my grandfather, my aunt, my uncles. My parents, of course, and my brother and I shoveled snow, we raked leaves, we ran errands. We used to weed the garden at the rectory, and then the priest would give us some change and ask us to go to the sweet shop and bring them back milkshakes, and we could get whatever we wanted. And then we'd go back to the rectory, which was this really beautiful, you know, sedate room, and the housekeeper would bring us our goodies in a dish, and you know, we would be served, and it was just this really wonderful experience with these Greek Orthodox kids at the Catholic rectory. Yeah.
I don't know what they're saying. They could hear each other. It
Mhm,
really does not make sense that
mhm.
we're not able to hear that. I'll tell you, because I literally did this yesterday with Steve. Makes me crazy here. That's up and it's all the way up. Ah, God, it's frustrating. Too frustrating. Too frustrating. And then how old were you when you started working at the phone company?
16.
16 years old.
I was a telephone operator, like who's the one?
Lily.
Number plate. Yeah.
Lily Tomlin.
So it just turned out that the central office that I was in was the one where all my high school friends lived. So I could connect like 6 people at one time and have everybody talking. And I loved it. I loved it. I still love the telephone because you can be anybody on the telephone. So I would go, number please. What number are you calling? I mean, it was just lots of fun.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and you know what, the other thing is, if you put a disguise on, how that can change you, like Halloween, how you could become the fortune teller, the gypsy, or, because you're in this disguise. It's really great.
So that allows us to actually, that's why they say dress for the part you want.
No,
Right?
I never, oh yeah, well, what a good idea.
Well, I mean, that's the psyche, the brain.
I wish I knew that 30 years ago.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? All of this stuff. What has been your favorite job?
Oh my God, teaching yoga. You can
Ah.
call it a job. I mean, if you're living your bliss, does it really work? I mean, really, if you're not, well, I'm assuming, which we shouldn't assume anything, but that everyone who's doing yoga, we're talking to and with, but
Yeah, I would say so.
I think it's life affirming. Finding my yoga community here really changed my life. I've never met such wonderful people. That people are evolved. They're not competitive. I've never heard anyone in all these years, since I think around 2007, I've never heard anyone complain about another person.
That's amazing.
It is, it's really living your truth.
I know I never experienced anything as great as it. And that's where I met Vicky. It's where I met you. It's actually where I met half of the
Vicky.
people that are on here. Vicky was in my class, my yoga teacher training class, and we graduated together. In fact, we bonded very strongly during that. That was an amazing experience, and I think everybody should go through yoga teacher training.
Your group was one of the really most connected groups that I experienced. But my training, my 500-hour training was, there were 17 of us, and we still stay in touch.
Yeah.
It's just it was a wonderful experience.
You started teaching yoga in your living room before you were certified.
Right, yeah, so I had read a book called The Hunsas by Renee Taylor, who I think she was a movie star. And the Hunsas, I don't know what drew me to it. The Hunsas lived in the Himalayas or the Himalayas, and they ate yogurt, and they lived to be into their hundreds, 106, 108. And they did this series of movements. So I started doing these movements and, changing we always ate yogurt because that's what Greeks do. But so I'm doing these movements, and a friend of mine was taking a yoga class. So I said, so she invited me to join her once. It was at the Y. And I go to the class, and guess what I was doing? The sun salutation. That's what those movements were that they were doing. And I never knew it. And my first teacher, Margaret Coble, would drive an hour and a half to teach that class. And she never did a pose. She had a demonstrator. She walked around the whole time. She was Danish and had a bell-like voice, sort of like Vicky's. Too bad you can't hear Vicky.
Yes, it's too bad.
Yeah, really. And what she said during Shavasana was, let the ripples of the lake mind merge with the great ocean of consciousness. And that was it. It was like, it answered all of my questions for me. I can't explain it. And then, then I became engaged in the yoga center in Rochester. And we had this workshop called, it was a Tell Me Who You Are workshop. And there were 13 people there. So I ended up being 13, and I didn't have a partner. So Margaret Coble had to be my partner. And she was this very evolved woman who was translating the Sanskrit into English. And anyway, I'm looking at her and my whole body filled with, it was like fog. And then that fog went into everything around me. And what I used to say to my students is yogis believe this or yogis believe that. And I'd say, yogis believe in this subtle element called prana that's in everything. And but I said that because I hadn't experienced it. I wasn't going to say something I hadn't experienced. And I saw that I saw this force in everything around me. And then I understood prana, and I didn't have to say yogis believe this anymore. So yeah, so and I've been thinking about trees so much, and the rings around trees to determine their age, and how our thumbprint is similar to those rings. We have the rings around that form our thumbprint. So
Yeah.
everything, and this whole thing of when a tree is dying, people used to think that it was taking life force from the other trees, but what they discovered is it's actually giving its life force, what it has left, to the other trees. I
Wow.
mean, it's just very exciting stuff. And, everything is prana,
Well connected, well connected. Kim, let me back up a little bit to some of these. Kim says that is true. I never thought about that. What is true, Kim? And then Dina says, so amazing how you remember that so vividly. Your
Oh,
as
my
you were
daughter,
teaching.
that's my daughter, Gina.
Yeah, let's see, what is it, Kim, that was talking about that was true? I never thought about it. Just want to see what it is that she was talking about, that yoga isn't competitive. I don't know if that's the case everywhere, but see, I think that's ego too.
Well,
There's if it depends, because if your ego is involved in anything, it's going to be competitive. Yeah, no.
I never felt competitive in yoga because you're in your own experience. I don't really believe that a yoga studio needs a mirror. I think a mirror is not a good thing. If you're busy, because the pose is organic, so in some ways you're never really in the pose because you're always working the pose. And if you're truly like focused on your breathing and your your what do I want to say, where you are in the pose, you can't possibly think about it can't possibly be ego involved, I don't think. But then in America, what we do is
Right.
we tend to make everything competitive. I hate to bash Americans, but there has to be like Bikram. I don't know if you know about Bikram, but he had this contest, who could hold their breath the longest or something. Or yeah, I mean, so this kind of thing, we get something beautiful in this country and then we beat it up.
It's more, it's been geared to about performance, how well you can perform the pose or something. So I try to tell the ladies, feel it. Don't even worry about what it looks like. How's it feel in the body? Vicky says, Pauline is a light on my path.
Oh,
As I agree with you.
this is-
Karen says, have you read The Hidden Life of Trees by Peter Wohlleben?
I've just read excerpts. Yeah,
Ah.
probably I read a review of the book, I think. But no, I have not, unfortunately.
Sounds like a Amazon delivery.
Yeah.
I like sending Pauline books. I do. She lives and breathes you. This is Vicky saying you live and breathe the power of yoga. I will agree with that. I will agree with that. You have brothers, sisters, brothers? What do you have?
I have, yes, I have a brother and a sister. And my sister is, let's see, she's 9 years younger and my brother's 11 years younger.
No.
And my sister is pretty, I mean, she taught Tai Chi, so we both kind of have that same Eastern bent.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it's very
What
nice.
did,
My sister's daughter, I'm so proud of her. She did her yoga therapy at a university in Maryland and ended up with a master's in science. And it was in connection to Johns Hopkins. So she's a yoga therapist,
oh, lovely.
among other things.
It's not an easy field.
No, well,
I know that I realized I'm a little too new in my healing to go any deeper into that right now. I need to stabilize where I'm at, and build a little bit more before, because I've done a lot of healing. A lot of you guys know me before I started. I've come a long way already. So
when I
It's
met
all right.
Jen, well, I remember when I met Jen, and Jen was, it was at a training, and I'm sort of the yoga historian. So I go to these trainings and butt in when I think something needs to be said. But anyway, Jen was already very spiritual, and it ended up that she and Vicky were assigned the same chakra.
we got teamed up. Vicky and I got teamed up because we had to show that what we learned about the chakras, and we had to have a presentation, and my goodness, that freaked everybody out, right? That freaked everybody out, but I like to have the center stage. I was okay with it. No, but that is where Vicky and I we were put together, and I thought, well, everybody thought we had an amazing, it was a
Your
nice
presentation
experience. It was really
really
good.
wonderful. Yeah, you were a good team.
It was really good though. It was really good.
That was, well, and I remember when Vicky went to talk to Ginny, who owns Heartwood, and Ginny was telling her what to expect, and I remember saying to Ginny, you'll get as much from having Vicky in this program as she'll get from you. And wasn't that the truth?
Oh, absolutely the truth. I gotta say, Vicky could put me to shame in most of the poses too. Vicky was not afraid to do anything.
Oh, I remember her. What did you do? Did you
Stand on her hands.
She did a handstand.
Handstand.
Oh, yeah, remember that on the mirror.
Yes, exactly, on the mirror. On the mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you and your siblings do for fun when you were young?
Oh, well, my younger brother and sister, they were just way too young. And then I have a brother that died, Tommy. So we were 18 months apart. And we did kick the can and what else? Hide and seek.
So you all got along well, and you still get along? Okay.
Yeah.
So good. Cool.
Yeah, played outside a lot, not like today.
Right.
Played outside till dark.
Yeah.
In the summer, my grandmother would hose the sidewalk down and the flowers, and we put our bathing suits on and she'd hose us down. That was fun. And we swam a lot.
Where?
We took the bus at the corner of our street to the park that had a public pool. And so we'd go swimming. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that was nice.
Nice. You have fun memories of your brothers, sisters.
Well, where I lived too, at the corner of my street was a tailor. And then there was an apartment building, kind of an ugly dark brick apartment building, not too high. And then there was Mr. Brown, there was Simpson's, and Simpson's was a dry goods store. So if it was Christmas Eve and you forgot somebody's present, you could go there and find something. It might only be some yarn, but you could find something. And then was Mr. Brown, who had a candy store, but he was sort of mean. But the ice cream, and nobody remembers this, was 5 cents for an ice cream cone. Can you believe that?
And Brooke is saying, was that Rochester, New York?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Ah, so.
Oh, yes.
Awesome, awesome. I've never been to New York.
Oh,
Yeah, I have no clue. In fact, it's very few times I've been out of Florida.
oh my gosh.
It's been an inward journey this time around. I'm really loving it. It's all good.
Well, it's New York City is just a wonderful place to be and to experience. It's not, I never felt threatened or unsafe in New York, but I certainly wouldn't feel that comfortable today, unfortunately. It's sad. But, and I have to say this, as recently I've had all of these wonderful acts of kindness bestowed on me. And the other night I was at dinner with a friend. We were sitting outside. And I was, I could see the next table. I wasn't directly in front of it. I was at an angle, and there was a man sitting there alone. My friend's back was to him. But at some point he nodded like that he had an empty space there. And I just smiled at him, and we had dinner, and he got up and left. He was a big man. He had a cane, but he wasn't obese or anything. And I mean, I just noticed him because he had beckoned us, And my friend asked for separate, the waiter came, she said, "Oh, can we have our separate checks, please?" And he said, "Oh, that's been well taken care of." So this man had, and it was even, included the tip and everything. I paid for our dinner.
Wow.
I mean, it was just so amazing. And last night in the grocery store, the water was up high and I couldn't reach it. And this young guy was there, and he just asked if he could help me and pulled it down for me. And then the bagger asked if I'd like him to wheel my cart out. And I've always declined that. But I said, yes, for some reason, I didn't feel real good at that moment. And I couldn't find my car. He said, "Well, what about your fob?" So anyway, he finally found it and put everything in the car for me. And no tip. He was just so kind. I've been very fortunate in the kind of people I come across in Sarasota.
Wouldn't you say that some of that is contributed to what you look for in life, though? If you look for the beauty, you'll see it. If you look for harsher things, you'll see more of that.
I am of the headset that everything is perception. If you perceive you have, it's like perception and reality. If you perceive you have a wonderful life, you do. It has nothing to do with what you own, or it's just perception. If you perceive you're healthy, I don't have any aches or pains in my body at all. I'm very,
I think we need to hear that again. You don't have any aches or pains in your body at all.
no, I don't have, for the most part, I don't have a sense of my body. I know that sounds weird, but I mean, I know I have a body, but
Mhm.
it's like, no, nothing, nothing troubles me about it. No, I just feel very blessed. Cliched, I'm sorry, but.
No, I'm gonna come back to that in a minute. I just wanted to address here. Oh, we got a couple few. Let me go back up. I got aches and pains over here. My legs are folded for a few minutes, takes me a little bit, get them straight again. But I'm newer, I'm
Who said
newer.
that?
That's me, I'm saying that.
Oh.
So let's see, Brooke says, was that Rochester, New York? You said yes. Kim says, New York City is my stomping grounds.
Oh,
Maria Johnson says, Rochester is where I'm from, actually 30 miles south Naples, New York, wine country.
oh my
Finger
goodness.
Lakes, Finger Lakes.
Oh, beautiful.
Finger Lakes. And Vicky says,
Oh,
what
in
a
Naples.
beautiful small world and proof of interconnectedness. And Maria says, yes, that is so true, isn't it? Kim says, Pauline, tell me your feelings on getting older. Has it been a good process? Have you enjoyed the process about getting older? And what advice can you give as I watch my parents age? Do you mind if I share a little bit about your recent experience? Kim? I know you can't talk. I just want to know if I can share that they came to stay with you. Sure. So Hurricane Ian happened and Kim's parents' home got flooded. So Kim's parents came to stay with Kim. And I don't know their age, but I know they're a little bit up there because Kim's a young 32-year-old herself. But so in their staying with her, she was actually able to see that they're not as with it as she thought they might have been, because before you're going to dinner and going out with them here and there, but having them stay with you and seeing their day to day, how they treat themselves and all that stuff, it let her in on some secret information there, you know. So so that's how she's wanting to know, like, tell me your feelings on getting older. Has it been a good process? And what advice can you give Kim as she watches her parents age?
Wow. Well, I loved my 70s. My husband died in 2005. And at the beginning of the year. And in 2006, in the fall, I found out I had esophageal and lung cancer. And it was very scary. I was alone. I put everything in storage because I sold my house and I had no place. The apartment I was taking wasn't ready for me to move in, and I moved to the country in the woods by with nobody around me. And then I got this news and I had to go live with my sister with just a suitcase full of clothes. And anyway, I didn't expect to live to be 70. And when I did, I threw myself a big birthday party and moved to Sarasota. And it changed my life. I really hit bottom. So I had this surgery. I had tubes coming out of the wazoo. I was in the hospital for 17 days. My cancer was normally treated with chemo and radiation, but I didn't want to do chemo, and my doctor said because I was fit, he would do this other procedure, which was to remove my tumor and place my stomach here under my collarbone and create an esophagus, which is what he did. One of the things that happened after that is I tried to do forward bends and do yoga, and my stomach would end up in my mouth. And he said, well, you probably will never be able to do yoga. And that just was the last thing I could stand to lose. I lost my husband, my home, my community, my work. I put a plastic bag over my head, but took it off when I couldn't breathe anymore, and ended up in a psychiatric ward. So I had really hit rock bottom, and that was an experience that probably wasn't very different from what people experienced in the 1930s. I was told after 5 days, the psychiatrist wanted to do electric shock treatments. And I knew he was looking for subjects. I knew that because my husband worked in neuroscience, and you need subjects when you're trying to get grants. So I said, you can't give me electric shock treatments without my signing for them. And he said, if you won't sign, I can get a judge to sign for you. I mean, that was about the scariest thing in my life. And I remember my brother and sister came to see me, and my brother said, Pauline, you just have to do everything they want you to do, no matter how inane, like they give you a stack of magazines and tell you to cut out pictures you liked. I mean, it was it was infanticizing, it was making you feel like you're in a locked ward, you're powerless.
Wow.
And I think it was 2 years after that I came to Florida. My cousin lived here. And then I went to Reflex and met Ginny and started, I asked if she needed a yoga teacher, and she did. And I started teaching at Reflex, and that's when my life began to change, but it didn't really take hold till I moved here and was able to do it full time. And anyway, and I remember at my 500 hour, at the end of your training, everybody said something about you, and Ginny says something about you. And I know that what happened to me is I rose from the ashes at Reflex Heartwood. And I have a phenomenal gratitude to Ginny for helping me lift myself out of the horror I had been in. So
Powerful.
yeah, so it's sort of like when you experience the worst,
Everybody has something
everybody
that
has
knocks
something.
them off that's what they say, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
My daughter had little kids when I was so sick, and the food was terrible. The psychiatric ward was the last place to get food, so it was always cold and awful. One day, there were funny things that happened. This woman started following me around. She was African-American, really beautiful with this big head of hair. And she'd sit by me at breakfast. And one day she put her cigarette out in my coffee. And I said, why did you do that? She said, I don't know. I did it.
It's crazy. It's a little bit
But
weird.
Dina, you remember that. Dina was bringing me soup and
I want to go back to some of these.
whatever
notes.
else I needed. I don't know, tender loving care.
Right, so I'm gonna go back a little bit to these messages. Brooke said, what you think about is what you become. When we're
Oh.
talking about our mindset, what you think you become, amen to that. Dina says, no medications, almost unheard of for anyone over 60. Absolutely, you're on no medications at all.
I'm on a very, very low dose of an antidepressant that it's like 37.5 milligrams, and I take it every other night.
Sounds good.
But I take vitamin D3. Everybody needs that.
Vitamin D, absolutely. Kim says you are a miracle. Her folks are in their 70s. Kim says, thank you so much for sharing so much.
Oh.
And we all agree with that. Maria says, how did you solve the stomach issue going through your throat?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Can you do your forward folds now?
Oh, sure, yeah.
There, because, well, even through all of the yoga therapy training, but I notice my heart when I do too much forward fold, my heart does something funny and I'm like, whoa, back out of this thing. And I kind of avoid it a little bit. Kim says, sounds like she had she's doing some kind of medical terminology on me. Nissen fundification?
No, I think it was called a gastric uplift. I think that's what it was called. And with your parents, do they have community?
You can shake your head, yeah, we can see you. Yeah, they have community, they have people,
Uh,
friends.
I'll give everyone some sage advice. Have young friends.
Oh.
And one of my yoga students was the mother of someone I worked with. And she would take me to lunch periodically, and she was so proud. And she'd tell everybody, I'm having lunch with my young friend. And I used to think that was kind of silly. But, think about it. You don't ever want to be with people that are like you. I know we lived in the city because I wanted my children to grow up the way the world is. I didn't want them in a suburb with all white people with 2 children and 2 cars and, it might have been hard for them. I don't know. They went to good schools. They both are well degreed, and I think I don't know. Cities have changed, but at that time,
That's actually something another thing, Steve and I have a lot of great conversations. And one thing we talk about is how happy we were that we grew up in Southeast Florida because they're so open-minded and we were just in the whole mix of things, which I didn't realize that everywhere wasn't like that. Until I moved out of that environment. It's like, what do you mean? It's like kind of, so that's really pretty neat. That was one of the questions I was going to ask. What were your children like growing up? What were they like? What was like?
I had the most wonderful children, and my daughter is there, Gina Germana. Every day was wonderful with my children, and when you don't have children, it's hard to imagine. I don't think you miss what you don't have. I think there's some of that, but yes, I'm very fortunate to have. Especially Gina's very devoted, and she takes good care of me, even though she's way up north.
Yeah, well, I know I can see she takes, I got her phone number. We're playing phone tag now. How did you meet your spouse? Were you married more than once?
I was married twice. Gina's father, Bob, we were introduced by Gap Mangione, if you know Chuck and Gap Mangione, they're musicians.
Mm,
Who's from Naples? You would
That
know
was
the
Maria.
Mangiones, right?
mm,
And so Gap introduced us,
mm.
and he proposed to me. I went to New York with my friends. He was living there. And we went to a place called Jazz City on a Sunday afternoon. Oscar Pettiford was playing bass, and Bob actually got down on one knee and proposed. It was really romantic.
Nice.
Sandy, my second husband, I met through a friend. I ran into him 2 nights in a row at parties, and he like monopolized me the whole night, never asked for my phone number. And then I ran into him in my friend's restaurant one night, and he finally had the nerve to come over and talk to me. He's very shy,
Mm,
but sweet.
Love at first sight.
Well, there was a connection at first sight. Yeah. Well, both men, I mean, I try to figure out what, if anybody's been married more than twice, what's the connection? There has to be something, although they both seemed very different. One was an artist, one was a scientist, but what's more creative than science, so in that way, they're both artists, right?
Oh, that's true. But it's there now. I have a deep love for science now. I'm very interested in science now, to where in school, I don't even think I gave a hoot, what's this? Even health in school, I was taking health class, I could care less about it. Now I'm like, I thought I can't get enough of this stuff. Let's see, Maria says, yes, she knew of him, the Mangione.
Oh.
Dina says, love at first sight, seeing Sandy cooking at his party.
Oh, I forgot about that. Right. So I had met Sandy, and he had invited me to this New Year's Eve party. Thank you, Gina. He and his roommate were having, and he was at that time at the Center for Brain Research in Rochester, and all the faculty, students, a lot of faculty. And there's Sandy with a tray of Clams Casino, like 100 Clams Casino, passing them out. And I thought, oh my God, this guy has a big heart. And it was just like, my father was like that. My mother would, he'd go to the market, and my mother would say, bring back a basket of peppers so I can roast them. And my father would come with a bushel. That was Sandy. Really, just always, I would have a yoga dinner for my class in Skinny Atlas. And I would always make like a soup, something vegetarian, and a salad. And I'd come home, and Sandy would have shrimp and brie and cocktails and all of this stuff, and it might be like just before Christmas, and I'll have gone and the house was plain, and I'll come back and the house has these big velvet ribbons streaming down the bookcases. And
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
he was. Oh, and once it was Dina's birthday. Remember that? Dina and Sandy had fireworks. And we brought the cake out, and Sandy was in the yard as we're bringing the cake out. And he's got fire, and it's December 30th. He's got these fireworks going, and oh my God, he was a big kid.
That's something. Brooke says she doesn't have the stamina to be married more than twice.
Yeah.
Smiley face on that one. I agree with you on that. That's interesting, because I was married for 20 years and had a family and did all the whole family cooking thing and all of the, the whole 9 yards of being the mom for all those years. And then I found myself, single dating for a while. And then I came across Steve. And Steve had lived by himself. His relationships, he never had long, lengthy relationships. He was married once, it was only for 2 years, and he didn't really have, he didn't bend too much.
Steve came across you.
Well, this is true. But when I started dating him, I really gotta say I didn't expect it to last because we were just so very different. So very different. But then it was fun. It was a lot of fun, which is something different than I had pretty much experienced in my 20-year marriage, and because he was a bachelor, he made himself meals. I mean, when I was single, I'm a Taco Bell, 6-pack of tacos, Coke on the way home. That's my dinner there. It was almost the same thing almost every night. I can eat the same thing over and over again. I'm way cool with that. But he would make this spread of it for himself. He would be cooking pasta with a little wine or whatever, and the emerald on the TV, and all of these vegetables and all this stuff. I'm like, for yourself? But anyway, I wasn't about to say no, I'll do the cooking. I rather liked that. And then the other days during the week, he would go out to dinner, and I'm like, well, this sounds like a very nice plan to me. And it's really pretty nice when they do this stuff in the kitchen.
It is.
It's lovely, really nice, really nice. Really nice. Do we have any questions from anybody? And I apologize again for the audio not working, but do you have any questions? Okay, let me ask, we're going to talk a little bit about about getting older. What are the most rewarding things about getting older? What would you say is the most rewarding? Some of the most rewarding things? Has it been lifetime of knowledge, or comfortable with self, or
Well, yeah, of course, comfortable with self. That's
the senior discount at the movie theater?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the 10% at Carrabba's. No kidding. I think freedom. I'm free. Which is huge. There's something else that I always slept kind of curled up, and now I can sleep just like babies do. Oh, totally open, which I could never do before.
Yeah.
And I don't really what somebody else. I mean, wouldn't want somebody to really think I was a dark person, but I pretty much don't care. And I've never had the need to be right.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's huge. And what's right changes, and we change. We're not the same moment to moment even. So we have to remember with our children and our friends to create them as they are in this moment, and not as they were when 15 years ago. They're not the same. It's like these kids, these families where, every child has a different set of parents. The parents aren't the same, and the children are raised differently. So I think that that's something that, I try to remember. And I talk to my daughter every day, probably for a minimum of an hour.
Wow.
And I don't know, she probably knows more about my life than she really needs to know. But I feel I mean, we talk about everything. I probably talk to her more than anybody.
Wow,
Yeah, I don't,
that's great.
I mean, I don't really, I haven't felt like I've needed a confidant. But there's not much she doesn't know about me, which I don't know if that's good or bad. Is that a burden, Gina?
No, that's great. She said, no, it's a privilege.
Oh, see,
It is a privilege. And I actually, when I call you and you tell me that something happened, I'm like, well, why the heck didn't you tell me this? You can't like have stuff like that happen and not let me know. Vicky says James Hollis in his book, What Matters Most, says only those who are still intellectually, emotionally, spiritually growing inherit the richness of aging. Ah, that sounds lovely. I love the little book snippets we're getting here. Maria says that is so nice. It is so nice for you to have a wonderful relationship with your daughter like that.
I hope her children, she has two beautiful daughters. I hope that they are as devoted to her as she is to me. You know what she did for my birthday? I turned 85 and she came to, first of all, she came down here, which was great.
Yeah.
And I got these big packages from Amazon and they were heavy. And so when she got there, we unwrapped them. And what it was is a Victrola. Remember the old Victrolas? And it's on a table. And and with that, well, because I always had music when the kids were growing up. So you have to imagine this was the 60s and the 70s. Doesn't she have a couple of the LPs? She managed to find the LPs we used to play all the time. Remember Bette Midler? Gonna get married and going to the chapel, right?
Yeah.
Remember that? And Manhattan Transfer. And I mean, so yeah, we had so much fun. Yeah. Anyway, that's how well she knows me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's beautiful.
And you know what? This is the other thing with your parents, Kimberly, you know, something they might like to do is take dancing, ballroom dancing. If you could get them to do that. I mean, a lot of older people do that. I did that in my 70s and oh my God, it was so much fun. I had this gorgeous teacher. He was about 6 feet tall, very thin, African-American and Italian, and he had these dreads. And we had a performance and we did the waltz and we were the only couple that I had a lift in it. And oh man, it was just so much fun. And a lot of older married couples were older than, 75, whatever I was at the time. But yeah, that's a great thing to do as you're aging and you're learning because you have to learn new steps. It's,
So it's good for your,
yeah.
the old ticker there. Let's see, Kim says she loves that. Karen says, I hope to be blessed with my children like that. Warms her heart. Maria says the same there. And Dina says, agree. My mom is so happy when she dances.
Oh, girls got to dance. I think that's what Cindy Lauper said.
Huh? I think.
Oh, no, she said girls got to have fun.
Fun.
Yeah. Well, dancing's fun, right? When the kids were little, I used to dance with the dust mop.
Well,
I mean, you don't even need a partner. That's what's so great about it.
well, because in the 70s, I would imagine, because just getting a little bit older myself, I find that I'm more acceptable of myself. I'm not so as concerned with how I look on the dance floor, but it's not something that I've really, I would say in the past have shied away from it because of how, you don't know and, you're afraid of looking funny out there. But in your 70s, you've worked through a lot of that. And don't even be, it's about enjoying yourself. Maria says, my husband and I did line dancing. Remember that was when it was popular in the 80s.
Oh, that's fun. That's great. Any kind of dancing is fun. Yeah.
And Karen says her mom was a dance instructor.
Oh,
She met her father as a student. They danced until they couldn't anymore.
Karen, are you from Naples? Karen,
No, Karen, that was
Oh,
Maria.
so
Naples,
they-
yeah.
Oh, what fun. Yeah.
How about that? How about that?
Yeah.
Dancing.
It is really, dancing's where it's at.
Mm.
And in my yoga, in my classes, I used to, Andrea Bocelli's Time to Say Goodbye. So I would have the way I would warm up. I would just have this little pelvis thing. It would be like time to say goodbye. So you're inhaling up and then, it was beautiful. And I remember I had a woman in Syracuse who was probably in her 70s at the time, said she never felt beautiful before.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes I'd have them bring scarves in, to dance, to do that too. And so you just, so you can, anybody can do it. You can just take it around and, so it's like
The organic movement.
Yeah,
Very beautiful.
yeah, so, yeah.
I love that. I love that.
And the thing, well, we were talking about yoga. I do have a feeling about the poses that I think if possible, it's important to get the most benefit out of a pose that you can get. And Mr. Iyengar, who is a whole school of yoga, developed these props that you could use. I don't see anything in here, but
I only have blocks and
so
such in
for
those,
example,
in those hassock there, and open them up. On the white one, open it up, there might be something in there.
so these are a couple of the props. But when he first started, of course, it was in the early part of
This is the camera.
in the early part of the century. He made his blocks out of bricks.
Oh,
Mr. Iyengar's early block. So what the block does is it enables you to get into a pose easier. So I don't even know about triangle. I haven't done it in so long, but if you, so if you come down, okay, I can get into the pose. And then I can turn where instead of doing, if I didn't have the prop, I'd be doing something like this. So I wouldn't get, whoops.
right. So we're talking about getting the side. Otherwise you fold forward.
Right,
You
so
fold
you're not,
forward, so you're not getting the.
or you could do it, say, on a chair, for example. And so I'm like this, rather than being like this. So that's, and then the same with the belt. One of the things I found, oh, you'll see my ugly arms, but I would ask people to raise their arms. So, all right, let's begin. Let's raise your arms, and they would do something like this. So the arms are not straight, right? Sorry, thanks. So if you have the belt, and you take the belt down, and you bring your arms up. And now I have nice straight arms, plus, look at what it does to my posture. Oh, nice going, Vicky. So it lifts your sternum. And then, this is something you can do in bed before you even get up. You're lying in bed. take your belt, straighten your leg, make sure you're lifting that kneecap,
Mm.
and then bring the leg up to where you feel life, and then play with it there. You can take it out to the side then, as far as you can, and to this side. These just little things you can do. Bring your legs from side to side before you get out of bed. And then my favorite is you bend your knees, and it's important to remember this when you get out of bed. Don't just throw your legs out to the side to get up. Most home accidents occur in bed.
Yeah.
So what you do is you bring your knees and bend over to the edge of the bed, put your feet down, and then what I like to do is I just hang, place my hands on the floor, come up. Okay, I'm coming up.
A little side to side.
I go side to side, I do one of these, come down, and I've already done something for the day.
Yeah, totally.
So it's not like, you have to set aside a half an hour. You know,
Right. We overthink it.
Yeah.
overthink it.
We overthink everything. How about that? How about that? We got, I love her. I just love her. All these people are saying how much they love you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so let me just ask a couple more questions, and I don't want to hold everybody, but you seem to be okay with it. If you could go back to any age in your life, what would it be? Or do you like where you're at now?
I love my life at this moment. Yes. You know, I used to ask my friends' mothers that question. And you know what their answer was almost exclusively? It was to the time before they were married, when they were being courted. I found it so interesting. I would have expected, well, my first child was born, or my wedding day, I don't know, but
Right.
I always thought that was so interesting.
Mm.
What about you ladies?
Yeah, what about you ladies? What is there a certain time that you would like to go back to? Let's see, if you could go back to any age, what would it be? Let's see what everybody says here. I gotta say, I like my teenage years there. Now, Jody says now, but when my kids were little, it's good. I'm trying to make this a time period that I like as much as, and I'm close to that. You know, when I was a teenager, and then life kind of had a way of dragging me through a bunch of whatever. And I only started my healing process, a few years back. So I expect it to be, I'm like, I've got to get past that. I can't be 58 and having 15 years old be my, hey, I've got to do something to get that equal here, because otherwise, what the heck is that? What is that? Kim says early 20s. Early 20s. Early 20s. What was the best day of your life? That's a little bit too tough to ask you.
You know,
It's hard to pick just one.
what I wanted to tell you, this is hysterical, but so I was 75 when I was doing this, my 500 hour, or about 75. And one of the things we did, we got certified, and I don't know, we had to do paddleboard.
Oh.
So here I am, not a water person at all, out on the paddleboard. You have to, and so we're at the Mango Grove at Lido Beach, and so you start out, and then to go through the Mango Grove, though, you've got to kneel.
On the board, in the water.
Well, yeah, on the board, in the water. And I'll tell you, it's gorgeous. You go through this, the wildlife totally changes. You get in there and it looks like swampy and snaky and, weird. And then it's very dark, and then all of a sudden, there's this, you see some light. And as you get closer to the light, you begin to see the seascape, the landscape of Sarasota. And it's so exciting. And anyway, but I fell in 3 times. Once a bird came by me, I don't remember what happened the other 2 times. So, I mean, it was like, I wasn't embarrassed, it was funny, but I got out. And remember when you were little and went to the beach and your clothes got wet and sand got inside everything? That's what happened.
Your pants started falling off of you?
No, but I was all sand and everything.
But then when they
Clinging to
get
me.
wet, they get soggy too, you know, and it's like,
Yes.
oh no, everything starts to fall off.
Yeah.
Maria said she didn't really want to go back to a different age, but different times that were good. When her kids were little, when she first got married, high school years were good too. Kim says, thanks for the idea. She's gonna go dancing and paddleboarding.
Oh, I love that.
What are you most proud of, Pauline?
I'm proud of my kids. And I'm proud of the life I created here.
Mhm.
Because I was old when I came here. I mean, I wasn't a kid. And I mean, the circle of friends I have and how wonderful they all are, like Jen.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, who has a friend like that?
We have a nice friendship. We do have a nice friendship. Congratulations on your accomplishments, on all the many accomplishments.
Well, thanks.
What kind of things make you the most happiest now?
Well, talking to my daughter every day.
Yeah.
Well,
See,
there's
it's the simple things.
yeah, that is a great, that, I mean, I don't know if she'll get, I wonder how, if she will get sick of it, you know?
Oh, she wouldn't. Of course not. She wouldn't be here if she was sick of hearing you.
And you know what, she's so, the thing that's wonderful about her is even growing up, she never cared, I mean, she never cared about clothes. She, you know, other kids were wanted designer sneakers, and we didn't have much money because I was a single mom, and, you know, I don't know, I think they wore their shoes out pretty well. My mother kept them in clothes, and my mother worked at Sears, so she got a discount and used it for my kids. And yeah, so my kids, I'm lucky
Yeah.
that they've turned out, they have good lives. They're very different. Dina, I just admire because she's non-materialistic. She has very little interest in things, and she loves nature,
Nice.
and she walked the Lake Tahoe, Northern Trail of Lake Tahoe. I think it's 80 some miles, and it's leave no trace.
Mhm.
And they did it, I think, she did it with her partner and some other people. And I think it took them, what, 6 days, Dina? Yeah, I mean, who does that?
She said that you gotta say that since she's on the call with you, you have to say that she's a good kid and she would never, all capital letters, never get tired of talking with you.
Oh,
How, just a couple more questions. How have your dreams and goals changed throughout your life?
you know, I think things started to change for me when I began to think about how grateful I was. And I'm not sure when that was, not as long ago as it should have been. I mean, if
Mm.
I think about how much better I could have been as a wife, as a mother, as a daughter. But this thankfulness for my great life, that I'm healthy. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that everyone in my family as well, my brother and sister, and my kids and their kids, and my friends. My friends are well. I have a friend turning 90. She says things like, time is of the essence, And she is throwing herself a birthday party. It's November 11th. She's the best role model. She had a perfect childhood, a perfect marriage, a perfect lover. The only thing she said that wasn't perfect is one of her daughters is a Republican. She's really funny.
That's the toughest one to get over.
Yeah, and she's beautiful, and she makes lemonade out of lemons. She is she's just wonderful. And you know what she does? She volunteers at the Friendship Center in the consignment store one morning a week. 90 years old. And she always wanted to see the Last Supper in Milan. So for 3 years, she planned that trip, but COVID prevented her from going. And she went this year in August. She went to Milan, saw the Last Supper, and they stayed in a house on like a cliff on Lake Como. She said she wished, this is before she went, she said, oh, I wish I had one of those harnesses like they use in rehab to get her up and down the stairs, but she did fine. They rented a boat one day. She went with her 2 daughters and daughter-in-law. Then she took a cooking class. She saw the Last Supper and stayed at some fancy place in Milan. So
that's a real testament of who is, what your environment is like, who you hang around, because the energy is transferable. Absolutely. Absolutely. So important. What are you currently doing? I know you're still doing yoga, obviously. You're still teaching it. You're still, I think you take private lessons. And what are you currently doing?
well, one of the things I did, well, for 2 years, I really became a slug during COVID. So I became very frail. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, because just from lack of doing what you normally do.
You were at home.
Yeah, it was terrible. And so the yoga helped me a lot. But I also joined the fitness center where I live. And I had this trainer who manages to keep me up. Dina met him. So this is my time with him. And it used to take a good half hour. Now it's only 20 minutes. But for 3 minutes, I'm on the treadmill. And then I do lower body things. And then for 3 minutes, I'm on the treadmill again. And then I do upper body things. And then I'm on the treadmill for 3 minutes and I'm finished. So that's what I do. And it's totally, I mean, I would say that it's been a big change. Well, I don't know, you know me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I seem more vibrant or.
No, I've had the pleasure of feeling your muscles.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I mean, you put me to shame.
Oh, come on.
On these yoga and some of these yoga poses. What are your aspirations next?
Next? I don't know. I'm very much in the present. You know how you hear somebody talking about meditation and sitting there for a long time. And one day I was washing dishes. I was living in Sarasota, so it had to be in the last 12 years or 15 years. And all of a sudden, I realized I was only washing dishes. I mean, I was feeling the soap, the solids, and I was feeling the dish, and oh, it was so cool. And then another time I was ironing, And I was so into it.
With it.
And it's like, so my goal is to stay present.
Yeah, I like that a lot myself.
Yeah, I mean,
I do.
it's all we have,
Yeah.
like this moment,
Like
How
this
great is
moment,
that,
like this
right?
moment, like this
that we're all here, and I hope everyone is well. Vicky, are you well? Yeah.
As well, we got it. Cheers on that. Kim says proof that there is time to do everything. There sure is. And just a little bit on your daily practice. Why is a daily practice important? I know you told me you have your short practice before you even get out of bed. And then you do your stretching, and then your legs, you put your legs up the wall
Yes,
while
I
you're
do
still
that
in bed.
sometimes. Yes.
And you stay with her for a few minutes, 10 minutes.
A few minutes, well, and that is very, very meditative.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Mhm.
haven't done that, you must lie on the floor and put your legs up the wall, because it's divine. Or you could put them on your sofa or a chair, and then just bring your arms out. It opens the front body. It reverses the blood flow. It's great if you have a headache. It's just one of those poses that just makes you feel wonderful. It's rejuvenating. When I used to teach more than one class a day at 4 o'clock, I'd always be so tired, and I would lie on the floor. This is when I lived in Skinny Alice and was teaching lots of yoga. And I'd put my feet up and I'd set the timer for 20 minutes, and I always came out of it in 18 minutes. I mean, you don't fall asleep, but you're in that Shavasana state,
Bliss.
which is so beautiful. I mean, you're totally aware of everything, but not. It's
Yeah, right. Well, the awareness.
and the other great thing about yoga, if you have a really good practice where you put out a lot of energy, that Shavasana, I mean, I've had times when I felt like I was this far off my mat. And it's just the most amazing feeling.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you this story. This is, I used to have this dream that I was running, and I'd be running and running, and my legs are going just like this, but pretty soon I'm off the sidewalk and I'm running, and I'm above the trees, and I'm running. And honest to God, this is going to sound weird, but I think I have these out of body experiences, and I tell my granddaughter that I was levitating. So my granddaughter, Gina's daughter, Francesca, so Francesca says, "Can you really levitate?" Yeah. I said, yeah. So, and honestly, I thought I could. So I'm trying to levitate. I mean, nothing happened.
Right.
I mean, but I want to
Well,
fly, I really want to fly.
To me, I've experienced it, but like as soon as I recognize it, I'm like, it's gone. It's like, there it is, and then it's gone. So I don't know how to, I'm working on.
But that's with meditation too. As soon as
it
you
is
recognize
meditation.
that you're not meditating.
That's where I keep getting a little bit stumbled up there. Karen says, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful, keep on keeping on. The world needs more. Pauline, Dimitry.
Oh my
Amen to
goodness.
that. Maria says, totally agree. Well said. Thank you, Pauline. And we got another thank you, Pauline, for conversation and the yoga instruction. Yeah, Pauline, what a true delight. Any final thoughts? I don't want you to leave here and say, oh, I wish I would have said something. Any final thoughts that you want to just say, or you think you
Stay present, be grateful, and live your life to the fullest.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Thank you for listening to me.
Yeah, thank you, ladies.
And
so
I'm
much.
sorry, I couldn't hear your voices.
Well, I'm thinking of having you come do a yoga class. And we'll work on this audio and you'll come do a yoga class. You can come do it. We'll open up a yoga class.
We'll just put our Andrea Bocelli on. Oh, you're
Oh,
welcome.
all right. That sounds like a date if you're asking me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you so much for participating and asking your questions. And we'll see you next time. In gratitude and so much love.
And you're so lucky to connect with Jen.
Oh.
Oh, she's so beautiful.
So love makes the world go round. Love works the world go round. Namaste, everyone. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you.